Hi, I'm Rick the Painter. I'm going to show you a few tricks today. Let's go visit Marilyn. Her house was painted a few months ago by a fly-by-nighter, and now we have to fix it again.
We're not very happy with the results that we've got. I mean, it seems to be kind of shoddy work. So we thought we would maybe get somebody will do a better job for us, hopefully.
Right.
Because, I mean, as you could see, the windows were really bad, and the walls don't look nice and painted nice at all. You see spots on it. So we thought, you know, I mean, it's no good having it like that. You might as well get it done properly. But in the meantime, I mean, I have to pay twice to get it done now.
What you should always do, for my opinion, screen out people. Get references. See how long they're being in business. Check it out with the Better Business Review. If they're a reliable company, how long have they been in business? Check their qualifications. Okay, here we're looking on this wall here. We got some problems and we got flashing. The last painter didn't do his job proper. You can see around here there's blotches. It wasn't primed. It was strictly just painted right over, first coat, second coat. And what we see now around here and around some other places here that is blotching out, is flashing. That's what I call a flash. You'll see around here where the guy drywalled, there's some dents in it here. He didn't fill it up proper, didn't sand it proper. Here we're looking on the front window here. We got blistering. We got that it's not caulked proper, should have been scraped all along the windows here. Should have been caulked. We got a painter, the last painter just slopped the paint over and thought these cracks are going to go away. There's no way that's going to happen. We can see that. Look at this. Unbelievable. Okay, this surface wasn't prepared proper. Paint was peeling and should be scraped off with sandpaper or a steel brush, and the crack should be caulked proper. Here we're looking at the front door from the inside, and it has to be done with a primer. Got to sand it first, prime this door, and then finish it with an oil, with a semi-gloss. And then we turn it around and do the same thing. But as we can see, this door has never been done proper. It hasn't been sanded. The last painter just painted right over whatever was stuck in his roller. He just painted it back onto the door. It should be sanded, primed, finish coat with an oil, because this is your exterior part from the outside. Here we can see here too, he didn't bother to care to leave the door open. There's two different colors. It's stuck into the rubber here, and it leaves a seam from the rubber to the door. Same thing too here. The last painter has not taped around here, just painted the hinges, your door latches. Well, customers don't appreciate opening the door, closing the door, and the paint's on over here on your jambs. This should have been taped off and kept a brass look. Here's a chart for a pair of paints here for interior and exterior color codes. And the chips are from cedar to spruce, whatever, and birch wood. And And whenever the customer wants me to pick out a color for the exterior, I use these samples here. And I have a chart and I'll match it with that too, and then they know what they're getting. It doesn't matter to me what colors are on here, as long as the wood is all like solid sealed, and the colors will never change even 6 months from now. It's very important to get the right lighting to pick out colors out on the color chart. For interior colors, it's important to check your color samples under on natural outdoor lighting and also the lighting in your home. Why is it set up here, Larry, this booth here?
This here is set up for the people to have a hands-on look at the colors, what they would look like in their natural state, which means in a home that has your standard lighting system. Because everywhere else within any of these paint stores, there is fluorescent lighting, and that is an artificial lighting, whereas this is actually set up to be natural lighting.
You should think about the colors and the windows and the lamps in your home and the rug colors and your furniture when you make decisions for picking the colors out of a chart in a paint book.
Okay, Rick, this is where all the paint is shook when it's in gallons and liters. After we put the tint in, we have to put it in on the machine and we have to shake it for about 6 minutes.
Why is it necessary to shake the paint?
That's the only way we have for mixing it so that it is truly mixed all the way through. If we tried to mix it by hand, you would never be consistent on your colors.
On the colors, okay. And what happens to, say, if a customer had the paint sitting for, say, a year in your house? Is it necessary to shake the paint? Or the pigments or whatever on the bottom?
After time, they will separate again, and yes, the answer to that is definitely yes. Anytime paint is sat over 30 days, we always recommend that it's shook before it's sold. Anybody want to get these first, or you want to get the finish? See here, Rick, I've tinted this one. This is a special custom color right off the chart. The accuracy of this is within 1/96th of an ounce. And this way we can maintain constant colors, whether you get 1 gallon, whether you get 20 gallons, it's always the same.
Here we got our interior, exterior brushes, Purdy, the top high-end brushes for a better finish. And here's for your oils, your polyester. And Deb, why is certain brushes very important? Can you explain this to me?
Sure. Actually, we have everywhere from the top-end brush to your everyday utility brush. As well, we have different types of brush, whether it be bristle or your nylon. One is the bristle is used for oil, and the nylon or polyester is used for latex.
Use top-end brushes for a nicer finish. You can use cheaper brushes, but it'll have a rough finish, like a fence. Why is the caulking very important on the exterior?
All of your surfaces, when you begin a job, you look at it, you notice things are awfully rough, you've got paint peeling, you've got spaces between the boards and whatnot. What you have to do is first scrape the sill very well, and then you can go along with something finer like a sandpaper and remove everything and make sure all your surfaces are really smooth. And after that is all done, that's where the caulking comes in. You have to put your caulking in every one of those little spaces and crooks and crannies and wherever the wood overlaps. This will ensure that all of that water that's coming down and the snow that's coming down is not going to get underneath that wood and push the paint off your surface. That's the most important. That's what gives people most of the problems, and as well, that's where the paint failure comes in, is water getting underneath that surface.
Okay, here we got some rollers, and they're 10 mil rollers. They're for an exterior. They've got a heavier pile. The reason why I would use this, or I would suggest anybody to use this on an exterior, the pile is very important. If it's 10 to 15, it's good. It holds more paint. And when you're doing a rough surface like cedar, it will hold the paint and it'll apply it better on the wood. Now there's another set of rollers for, say for instance, for an interior. It's a finer pile, lint-free. It doesn't leave the fuzz. When a new roller always has fuzz on it when you go like this or you want to roll it, it'll leave. When it's lint-free, it would not stick on your walls, the lint. And it's very important to use certain rollers. You don't use an exterior roller for an inside job, for the interior. They always use the right equipment.
Why wouldn't you use it for an inside job?
Because it depends. If it's an exterior roller, it would leave a lot of the, the lint on your walls when it's, like when I'm rolling or painting. It would hang on the wall. So it's very important to have the right rollers for the right job. And if you use a cheaper roller, you get what you pay for. If you use an expensive roller, if it's meant for the interior, use that. Don't cut corners because it'll cost you more money when you have to call somebody else, a professional, to spot this. They'll see all the lint on the walls. This house was done a year ago by qualified painters, which they say they were. I'm doing it now about 12, 14 months later, and I should never have to redo a house like this in a year. This house was costing thousands of dollars to repair what the last painters could have done proper the first time, in which they cut a lot of corners. They didn't caulk anything. They did not do the job proper for the customer, which the customer sees it now. And it's going to take thousands of dollars to correct it. This paint is peeling already. You get what you pay for. If you use cheap paint and apply it on with cheap brushes, that's how the product is going to look and the finish of it. Here's Charles putting the first primer coat so that the next two coats will cover. It's very important to have a primer and then have two finishes on top of the same color. You can see the rust showing through. It should be sanded first and then primed with a latex and finished with an oil paint. There's cracks, there's water coming through here. They did a lousy job. Here you can see water damage. It wasn't caulked at all. Here you notice nothing for the first month or two, but after 6 months, the water will force the paint to crack. Oil-based paint was used directly on this metal trim. It should have been etched properly first, just like the metal railing. Then it should be painted with a latex primer or a special metal primer. Here we're looking on the fascia part here. The last painter says he's painted this, matter of fact, 3 to 4 weeks ago. This has never been painted, this whole part here, the white part of the fascia, or caulked, maybe in the last 15 years. As we go along the fascia here, you can see it is blistering, it's not being caulked. We got almost jeepers, scared me. 3/4 of an inch over there. The painter said it's okay. It's not okay. Here it's already flaking. This was done a few weeks ago. It wasn't caulked proper. It's already starting to separate from the windowsill. All along here should have been caulked around the stucco, because moisture will come in when the rain hits it. It'll go in channel to the inside of your walls. That's going to have a problem on the interior. The caulking is not done proper, and it rains or the weather, and then top of the sills here or in the bottom, if it's not caulked, we're going to have a damage from the inside, from the outside. We're looking on an exterior gate, and what we can see here is a lot of, this was painted about 1.5 years ago, minimum. As we can see, all the paint is already flaking off. This was used just a latex, not an exterior latex, just a cheap latex paint. This is what happened. There was no primer to seal the wood, and it's very important to have a primer for the first coat. And what it is, the paint is just as good as only what's underneath the surface. If it's not prepped proper, it doesn't matter if you use a $50 gallon. If they just paint right over the old paint, and which hasn't been scraped or removed with a steel brush, it'll flake off. It doesn't matter what quality paint then, but it should be prepped proper, and you wouldn't have a problem like this. On the other hand, this door was prepped proper, is done right. The job is done very good. It's got a good finish, it's prepped proper, and it's not flaking.
Ignition. Lift off.
You come this way from this kitchen part, you'll see on top here that there's a run along your light here, which wasn't repaired. Should have been drywall, mud repaired. And then when you look back towards this side, you'll see a bunch of flashing. The guy that did the painting did not prime it first. He started to go with his roller, paint over it, first, second coat, and he stopped. It wasn't continuous, a roll. When you do a ceiling, you gotta spot prime first, which we can see that it is not done on top all along this here. There's a bunch of spots showing for you.
Yeah, I can see that.
This is what we gotta look out for. Well, it should be done the proper way. You do a primer first, make sure all the drywall repairs are done, very nice, sand it proper, put the primer over it, let it dry for a half hour, then you do a rough sand with a 120 sandpaper through your whole ceiling. And then you do the finish coat. You do your cuts first. What I mean by cuts, you take the brush and cut it, and use a high-end brush so that it doesn't leave hairs or bristles. Use a purdy brush, cut all along your ceiling, and then continue to go like that around the kitchen. You're gonna have a problem. A lot of heat will be lost here because it was not caulked proper. This should have been caulked. Should have been caulked proper first and sealed, because what's happening here is the heat from the inside is going outside, and the drafts are coming from the outside inside, so your heat bill is going to be really high in the winter months. It's going to be atrocious, really high, atrocious. This will be sealed. You'll keep the heat, and your what do you call it, your furnace won't be working so hard. If the windows are caulked proper, your doors are caulked proper, your furnace does not work as hard.
Let it rip.
Okay, I've got to go to another job right now.
That's right. That's not a bad concept.
I'll come over to your house at night and paint.
That's right.
I am Rick. I'm going to show you